This may be the least scary ghost you have ever seen, and after watching it, you will also want to hug him heartily. The story goes back one day. Jack died unexpectedly. During the moving process, Mary covered him with a white cloth and left the morgue sadly. The spooky thing is that shortly after the girl left, the white cloth was suddenly propped up. A human figure finally came out of the morgue slowly. When it passed by the doctor, everyone did not notice the ghost's presence. Jack then realized that he had become a ghost. Not long after, a glowing door appeared at the end of the corridor. Jack could be reincarnated if he walked in. But Jack did not do that because Jack couldn't let go of his girlfriend Mary. He wanted to find her. Jack came home and looked at the photo of himself and Mary. It was as if nothing had ever happened. That's when Mary came back, but she couldn't see Jack at all. Jack thought Mary would be sad about her death and cry. Instead, Mary was unusually calm. She calmly washed Jack's morning coffee cup and calmly threw away Jack's used writing paper. Then Mary began to eat the lunch they had prepared this morning. Mary still ate calmly, but Mary didn't stop eating for a long time. It was not until the two-person portion made Mary vomit that Mary would stop eating. So the silent grief is the most painful. Jack looked very heartbroken but could not do anything. At night, Mary finally began to cry. She lay in bed crying very painful. Seeing this scene, Jack would like to go up and hug Mary, but Jack is a ghost to do nothing useful. Jack could only watch him cry himself to sleep. People always say not to be too sad about the death of loved ones. Time passed slowly. Mary finally let go of her thoughts of Jack and looked at the future again. She changed the sheets from their old bed. Mary tried to erase the memory of her boyfriend Jack and start a new life. Until one night, Mary brings home a man. Jack is furious as he watches the two embrace and kiss. The lights start flickering and books fall off the shelves. When Mary came to tidy them up the next day, she saw two lines in the book that stood out. The rain was falling through the glass as usual, and he had left. After reading these lines, Mary began to remember about Jack's past. It was a romance novel that Mary and Jack often read. Every day after that, Jack was by Mary's side, and the man from that night never appeared again. Suddenly, one day, Mary wrote a note and stuffed it into a crack in the wall. Then she took her luggage and left the place. Jack wanted to know what was written on the note. Jack started picking at the wall to find out what the note said. A man dies in a car accident. After he died, he became a ghost to stay with his beloved girlfriend. But not long after, his girlfriend wrote a note and stuffed it into the wall and left the house directly. Looking at the back of Mary far away, Jack very sad. Jack wanted to know what was written on the note, ready to pick out the note in the cracks in the wall. At that moment, a ghost appeared across the street who looked exactly like Jack. Jack then realized that his love would slowly turn into waiting, but the person across the street can only wait forever, while he at least has the note in the wall. Jack wanted to know what Mary had said to him last. Jack began to crouch by the wall and desperately pick at the note, but it wasn't long before two kids came running in. They turned out to be the new tenants of the house. At night, Jack looked at the family and was a little angry at how happy they were. Because the house has a new owner, that means Mary will not come back. Thinking of this, Jack angrily smashed the dinner plate to the ground. The family was scared of the paranormal scene and moved out of the house. The house was called a haunted house, and once again Saturday unused. The man went to the wall and continued to pick the note in the crevice, just a little bit short. That night, a group of adventurous young people came here to have a party because here just happened a paranormal event. The young men felt very exciting to bring the girls to explore. The leading man asked the girls, "Do you believe in ghosts in the world?" Everyone began to discuss. Some said yes, some said no. The man said he believed there were ghosts in the world, but there was nothing to be afraid of. Ghosts are just the obsessions left behind by the dead during their lives. With the passage of time, whether human or ghost, this obsession will disappear. So there is no one in this world who cannot leave anyone, and no one who cannot forget who. But is this really the case? Jack does not believe. As time passed, the house eventually became a haunted house. Jack still crouched by the wall and kept snapping. Finally, in the efforts of the note was almost buckled out, but the next second an excavator instantly shoveled his house. As the excavator demolished the house, it quickly turned into ruins. The house next to him was not saved, and the ruins. Jack and the ghost across the street looked at each other. The other side desperately said, "I don't think he'll ever come back." The ghost instantly lost support and turned into a puddle of white cloth. After a few more decades, Jack still did not leave, but the previous ruins have now become a towering building, which is not what Jack wants. Since Mary will not return, Jack jumped from the rooftop. After a rapid fall, Jack returned to the ground again. How can a ghost die from a fall? It's just a reincarnation. But unexpectedly, this reincarnation let Jack see the contents of the note. This is probably the most pathetic ghost you've ever seen. He waited for 100 years in the same place, just to pick out the note left by his girlfriend 100 years ago. But 100 years later, the house under his feet becomes a high-rise building. Jack finally did not see what was written on the note. He jumped from a 100-meter high building with a broken heart. Although he did not fall to his death, but the building under his feet turned into grass. At that moment, a man dressed in vintage clothes knocked on a wooden stake. It was obvious that the man was going to build a house. Jack soon realized that he was back in the past. Since it was the past, he must have been able to see the contents of the note. Not long after, the man's wife and daughter moved in. Looking at the happy family, Jack was envious. But sadly, the family died in a riot just after the house was built. Jack watched them slowly turn into white bones. Another 100 years passed. Jack still waited in the same place, finally waiting until the grass at the bottom of the hill turned into a plank. That day a couple walked into the house. It was none other than himself and Mary before they were born. Jack watched them hug and kiss, watched them cook together, watching them laughing in the yard, watching them nestled in bed, discussing a move. A scene from the past reappeared. When Jack and Mary were so in love, Jack was watching so intensely that he accidentally touched the piano. The sudden sound makes the two of them feel scared. Jack, the boyfriend, sees Mary's fear and decides to move out of the house tomorrow. But the next day, his boyfriend died in an accident during the move, and there was a man in the house with the same white cloth. It was the same Jack in his previous life. Mary packed her bag and left. Jack rushed to the wall to pick out the note. The moment he saw the content, Jack instantly lost his obsession and turned into a puddle of white cloth. This also means the end of everything. What was written on the note we do not know, but no matter what was written, this note is only Jack does not want to face the reality of the world to stay a persistent bone. When the note opened, the moment will eventually face the reality. The obsession will also disappear, just like the other ghost said. I don't think he will ever come back.